Welcome to 5 Minutes in the Word, a daily devotional in the Word of God. How would any of us respond if one day, as we're driving down the road, we see a billboard on the side of the road that says Sinners of the World, and underneath that title is a list full of names? How would we respond? I know at least one way in which we would respond. We'd look at that list of names, and we're going down through that list because we're looking for one special name. We're looking for our name. We want to make sure our name's not on the list, and so we read the list. We're going down, 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 and all of a sudden, there our name is in big, bold letters for the entire world to see. Our name is found on a list that says Sinners of the World on the top. How would that make you feel? How would you respond in that situation? How would I respond and feel in that situation? Well, I got a pretty good idea how we would respond. I think most of us would be pretty upset. I think most of us would be pretty angry, and we'd probably say something like this. We'd probably say, how dare they put my name on a list like this? We'd probably say something like, I thought this list was for the big bad sins of the world. I thought it was for the murderers and the thieves and the sexually immoral. I thought that's what this list was for. Surely it can't be for my little old sin over here. My sins are socially acceptable. So surely, this list, this is a mistake. This is wrong. It can't be for my little old sin. It has to just be for those big bad sins of the world. Now, that might not be the words we would exactly use, but it might be the way we feel, it might be the way we think, it might even be the way that we act in life, like these sins over here, that they're big and bad, and it's okay if I just do the socially acceptable sins over here. That is the way so many people in our world today live. But the reality is sin is sin. Yes, there are certain sins that are mentioned over and over and over again in Scripture, and they have very harsh punishments, and God is going to be thorough with those punishments. But that doesn't mean these other sins that are listed over here, that they're any less sinful. They're still sins. They're still transgressing against God's law. That's what sins are. They're transgressions against God's law, and we need to understand that. When I was a kid, they taught us a song from Revelation 21:8. And the song actually referenced just really mainly one sin and talking about liars. And talking about the liars, will find themselves in hell. And that's a true statement. And that's something, if you continue to be a liar, you live as a liar, your place, your eternal judgment is going to be in hell. But I want us to read this verse today. I want us to look at the list of sins here, that's listed here, because I want us to see something that is so very important. It says, but the cowardly, unbelieving, abominable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Now, on a first look at this list, we might be a little confused. Because in our way of thinking as mankind, we have separated out, these are the big bad sins over here, like murderers and sexually immoral, and these sins over here, like being a coward, like being a liar. Surely those sins aren't as bad, and therefore, maybe we can get to heaven and just tell God, how it was here on earth, that these sins were socially acceptable, and these sins were okay, and, maybe he'll just let them slide, because, he is a good God after all, so, he'll just let these socially acceptable sins just slide, and he'll only focus on the big bad sins of our world. Is that how it's going to work? See, the reality is when you look at this list is not being comprehensive at all, but it's sitting here, it's showing us sins, what's going to cause us to be in hell if this is the way we're living our life. And yes, it includes things like being a coward. Now, that's something that we got to be careful for, because I think a lot of times that we act out of cowardice in our life and standing up and defending the faith. And it puts cowards on the same list as the murderers and the sexually immoral, that their part was going to be the lake which burns with fire and brimstone. That is scary. And that's something that we need to be careful for. And yes, it goes down on here, and it uses the unbelieving, the abominable, the murderers, the sexually immoral. It lists the people that we, I guess expect to be on this list because they're part of those lists, those big bad sins. But then it goes on down and says, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. I think there's something we need to look at in this verse and just understand that when we're trying to live based on the world standards of what is right and wrong, we're going to miss the mark every time. See, the reality is we have to live based on God's standards. And God has told us what is sinful. He has told us what we should not do and how we are to live and how we are to be. We shouldn't have any of these sins or really any sin as part of our life. It doesn't matter if the world says it's socially acceptable or not. It doesn't matter if the world says that they're the worst sins out there, and and these are the terrible sins because maybe they involve imprisonment, maybe they're illegal in some nature like that. We do not need to be part of any sin. We need to keep sin away from us, away from our lives, away from our children, away from our families, away from the church. We as people need to strive to seek after God, to seek after Him and fill ourselves up with Him and His Word and being around His people. Let's don't be like the world and try to justify ourselves based on our own way of thinking, based on what's socially acceptable. But let's look to be pleasing to God, and let's make sure that we're in a right place before Him.